conversation. Invite your friends, invite your colleagues. You need to get enriched with this conversation. And so before we start off, we're talking about innovation.
Yes.
And innovation is normally creating something from an idea or building up on an idea. That is what I would term it. But there's invention and there's creativity. I tend to think that creativity spurs innovation, but I don't know whether it spurs invention. So you can bring us to understand the differences between all these three things.
We've had a tendency of mixing up the terms. Innovation in principle is doing something new or doing something in a new way. So doing something in a new way is what we call process innovation. And that would look at more like, an easy example for us would be M-Pesa. M-Pesa is a process innovation. You still have cash on this end, you have cash on this end. We still transferred money between each other, whether it was hand to hand, whether it was giving it to a relative who was going up country to take it to your parents or to someone. We always moved money around. So what Safaricom, and I think we can credit this to Michael Joseph did, was he went and he tried to understand how do we get money across the country. Yet the word was that I think we were at 90% of Kenyans were unbanked.
Yeah.
But yet I could still get money to the village. It was a process, but it still got there. So we did have sort of a banking system. It's only that it did not meet the requirements of some Harvard graduate who says that banking services must be a building, loans, and all the rest.
Credit, loans.
And all those other things. But yet we have other systems which achieve the same objective. So what did he innovate? The innovation of M-Pesa is whereby you accept that an SMS message is confirmation
That I have received.
that you have received money.
Or sent money.
Yes. And if you want to know the power of that, people like Visa now and MasterCard now use that to confirm transactions. So that is what you call an innovation. It's actually looking at a process, changing the process.
Or creating something new.
Yes. Or doing
It.
something new. There must be a doing.
It's not creating, it's doing something new.
So no ideas, no. No theories, no dreams, no. There must be action. So you must be doing it. Innovation is a doing process. It's not a thinking process.
So what is invention?
Invention, on the other end, is what we rarely do. The person who came up with the microwave could be called an invention. Who found the microwave. But he didn't invent the microwave oven.
Oh,
That was an innovation.
makes sense now.
He didn't create microwave communication. That was innovation. So from one invention, you can get
an innovation.
millions of inventions, of innovations.
Of innovations.
Yes, you can get millions of innovations from one invention. And our problem is when you mix them, then you now get thrown out of. So I keep hearing, I think there's a fellow who made a bed the other day for hospitals. He was called an innovator. There's an entrepreneur, which is the other space we need to be careful about. Yes.
Okay. Now we're talking about students as innovators.
Yes.
So are they the best suited people to get to understand the subject of innovation, or anyone is best suited to understand this subject?
The minute you call it a subject, then somebody wants to teach it in class.
Okay. Topic or...
No, it's a process.
Yeah, process of innovation. Are students best suited?
They are the best suited, and if we look back...
Why is the question?
You heard of Dell? Do you know where it started?
Laptops. No.
Started in a university. You heard of Facebook?
Yes.
Where did it start?
When?
Where?
I don't know.
In a university. You heard of Google?
Yes.
Where did it start? In a university. You heard of Apple?
Yes.
Where did it start? In a university. You've heard of Microsoft?
Yes.
Where did it start?
Tell me.
In a university. And all of them were started by?
Students.
Yes. So you already have evidence
That the university is the best place.
to nurture
Innovations.
innovation. We want to go and create incubators elsewhere.
Yet we can create them in the
No,
university.
the university is an incubator
In itself.
in itself. That is all that a university is.
So local universities are incubators for innovation.
All universities, wherever they are in the world,
Is that practical in Kenya, for instance?
then our universities
universities.
are not universities.
If it's not
They're
practical.
just big primary schools that became overgrown.
In your opinion, are there innovations in these universities?
No, if they are none, then they are not universities. That's a test. If there's no innovation coming out of that compound, that 50 acres, if there's no innovation coming out of it, it does not justify to call itself a university.
Okay.
They should actually call themselves an institution of higher learning or something else. But let them not call themselves.
Universities.
Yes, because nothing universal if they cannot solve problems of the world.
So if you are a university, you need to be an incubator for innovation.
If you're an incubator of innovation,
Then you're a
then
university.
you're a university. Let's get this right.
Okay. If you are an incubator of innovation,
Yes.
then you're a university.
Yes.
But if you are a university without...
No, you cannot be. Let's agree on this. If you're not incubating innovation, you have no right to call yourself a university.
Practically, you've ever...
No, you might have a name that was left behind. You know, somebody was in a building and then they left a sign called University so-and-so. You then moved into that place and you now run a butchery. Is that a butchery or a university?
Okay, it's a university still.
Oh, it is? Okay. Then if the name is what makes it a university, then fine. The name on the gate
No.
is what determines whether it's a university.
No.
No, but you've just agreed that
it's a butchery.
if I build a butchery in a space which used to be owned by a university, and I did not put down the sign, then I'm running a university.
No, you're running a butchery.
Okay. So now, do you understand why, if you're not an incubator of innovation,
Then you are not a university.
then you're not a university? And I think if we accept that, then we can make progress.
If you're not an incubator of innovation, then you're not a university.
Yes.
Okay, we need to speed up the innovation process. And so what are the catalysts that can speed up the innovation process, especially to students and especially in universities, taking an assumption that now
Yes.
all universities, maybe in Kenya, for instance, are already incubators for innovation. We are taking that assumption that we have universities. That means the incubators for innovation.
Yes.
So what do we need to speed up or to catalyze innovation to take place?
I'm sure you graduated.
Yes.
What were you told to do with the paper you were given?
I was given the powers to read.
Yes.
And the papers I was given were to help me find a job and grow myself.
Somebody told you to go and look for a job
Yeah, I remember that.
at graduation
No, at the graduation school, you're told you now have the powers to read.
and do everything that?
Pertains,
Yes.
escaped my mind.
Seriously, the most memorable part of your life so
Have
far.
now the powers to read.
And what else? So they've taught you. It means that when you've passed through there, you know how to read. And I don't think they meant literally read. You should be able to look around you and see problems
And solve
those problems. Yes. The minute we confuse what a university produces
And
is an employee, then we have a problem.
so what a university produces is not an employee.
It's not an employee.
It's a refined intellectual, or what do we term, not a graduate.
Somebody
How do we
who
call
can
a
read.
graduate? Someone who can read.
And do all that appertains to that knowledge they've acquired.
Okay.
So when you start listening to unemployed graduates, for me is a misnomer. When you merge education with employment and you decide these are tied together, then we have a problem.
I wish someone told me that a while ago.
Yes, and sadly, that is what is not happening, and I wish we could. And I recently looked, I think we have now implemented what we call CBC. It's called Competency-Based Curriculum. So what does that tell you we had before?
We didn't have a competence-based curriculum.
So it was what?
Before.
So if it was not competent, it must have been incompetent.
Incompetent.
Okay. So we've been running an incompetent
Curriculum system.
Now I hope we'll be able to make it truly competent.
We've just begun on making it competent.
So
we already don't know whether it will be competent.
The problem is that the people running it came from the other system.
So if the people running this CBC system came from the other system, how do you think they will make it competent at this point?
We'll deal with that one. Okay, we'll deal with that one. So what comes in is, like what you asked was, the environment that automatically is a university. If it meets the requirements, then it's already the catalyst. It has all the ingredients required.
You already said that we already agreed together that any university, any place without an innovation incubator is not a university. So we are assuming that we have universities. What if they don't have those catalysts? Are they still termed as university?
No.
Are the students benefiting?
No, the students.
Or as long as you have this innovation hub, that means you have the catalyst, and that means it's working.
Yes. So now if we agree on that, we can move forward to the student.
Okay.
But if we don't have it, then we can't discuss the student, because the student is not in a university, and therefore we do not expect innovation out of them.
Okay, we can agree on that with the assumption that we are taking that maybe all universities are actually innovation incubation.
That we do have universities.
Yeah, we are agreeing.
Since we've done the definition.
Oh, so we are agreeing we have.
So long as we call it a university, the underlying assumption is it's an incubator of innovation,
and it has catalysts for innovation.
Yes.
Okay, we've made that assumption.
Yes.
So now you're in the university, you are a student.
Yes.
But now we've dwelled so much on universities that I'm getting to think, what about colleges? Are we going to place them also in that category of they have to, for them to be a college?
Okay, I'll give you what was told to me by someone years back, was that for every one university engineer you train, you must train 100 higher national diploma graduates, 1,000 ordinary diploma holders, and 10,000 artisans.
For every 100?
For every engineer, every one engineer.
100 for higher diploma.
Yes. Now, if you have that pyramid, then what it does is that it tells you that the others just need to be able to execute what the innovator up here has identified. So the engineer at the university's work is to look out and say, where is there a problem that needs solving? And he decides traffic in Nairobi is affected because we have two railway lines that come into the CBD, and those ones mean that we have to go over a congested space. And he decides the solution would be, let's put the trains underground. So from somewhere at Nyayo Stadium, we decide we'll tunnel the trains and they'll appear at railway station. Now tell me what it will take to implement that. How many high national diploma holders will you need? How many? You'll actually meet my objective.
You'll need more artisans.
Yes.
You'll need higher national. The highest will be the artisans, and then you'll have higher national diplomas.
The highest will be the graduate.
Yeah, the graduate. No, not the highest in terms of leading the project.
The highest number will be the artisans.
Yeah, in terms of number, the highest will be the artisans, and then the higher diploma. But the highest in terms of leading or guiding the project to go through would be the degree.
Yes.
Okay, that answers me why we need to also take colleges as places of innovation.
They don't have, you see, the question becomes that we need a higher level of realization. Okay, when we define the problem, because that's why you were told the ability to read. That's why you can come and you can give us a roadmap of where we are going. Then the rest will follow. Just like an arrow, you can't have, if you've got two, if your tip is wide, then the arrow can't fly through them. That's why you need somebody to guide it.
So are you trying to suggest that only universities are what we are going to consider for innovation, as in innovation, or
they are best structured for that?
Best structured,
they're
but
best
not
structured.
the only one.
They're not the only one, but they're best structured.
So in the university, are students really aimed at innovating or inventing? Are they really trained, or what do they get exposure to? Innovation or invention, or both?
They have exposure to both, depending with the disciplines.
Example, case in point.
I doubt somebody doing anthropology will be doing much invention, but he can do a lot of innovation. Yes. But somebody who is doing
electrical,
mechanical engineering or chemical engineering or something is likely to come up with an invention, but they need somebody in the room or in the vicinity to turn that invention into cash. And the process of converting that invention to money is called innovation.
Process of converting invention to money is innovation.
Yes. An innovator commercializes inventions.
So at this point, I want to understand, why is it important for this student at the university to engage innovation?
Okay, it's not engaging, and that's what I'm saying is that it must be natural.
Yes.
For you to have spent 4 years
in the university,
in a university, it means that you must hatch, isn't it?
Yes.
Unless you're a boiled egg. Because if you're a boiled egg, it doesn't matter how much incubating we do,
there's nothing that will happen.
The best we can do is make a sandwich.
Okay.
And seems that's most likely our problem. We've been putting too many boiled eggs in the incubator and then complaining 4 years later that they are not hatching. Now the test for a boiled egg is very simple. You put it in water, then you'll know whether it's a boiled egg. So we need a water test before you come into university. And that's why in other parts, if you look at the US, for example, they have an entry exam, a separate entry exam to university. If you go to the UK, they have a separate, they're now introducing a separate entry exam to go into university. Because what we are coming to realize is that you need a certain mindset to go into university. It's not just you passing
from my KCSE.
No.
It's not.
And that is maybe where our problem lies, in that now entry to university is based on you having performed very well in a regurgitation exercise.
So, okay.
You took somebody else's
exam,
knowledge, and then you reproduced exactly
what they told you.
What knowledge, and therefore what your ability is only to repeat.
So are you also suggesting that we need a whole new thing after KCSE?
Yes. It doesn't have to be a whole thing. It just means that we need to have a test which then allows us to channel you. Now the Germans have perfected it. The Germans have people who, by the time they are in what we used to call here, we used to call it KJSCE, Form 2, you'd decide that I want to be a carpenter.
At Form 2? Yeah.
At Form 2. And you'd actually move to a technical school. And you'd never have to waste your time knowing when Vasco da Gama went around the Cape of Good Hope. Because as a carpenter, it adds no value to your life. Yes. But there's a person who wants to understand why Vasco da Gama went around. And so we start separating you early. Our problem is that everybody is obsessed with a degree at the other end. Instead of asking ourselves, we have quadrupled, I think, if we think about it, in the last 40 years, the number of universities has grown, I think, from 5 to 50 something. But every time all I keep hearing is there are more unemployed graduates.
Because the number of universities have increased.
But they are not universities. The number of institutions claiming to be universities have increased.
We already defined a university, so
yes.
We don't have very many universities.
We don't have very many in Kenya.
We have like maybe 1 or 2.
we need to check whether we do.
Yes,
and the only way
maybe.
to do that will be to ask, of the graduates from these universities, how many have come up with an innovation we can discuss now?
That's a whole subject on a new thing that we need to do a research on. Kenyatta, Nairobi University, JKUAT, so that we can decide which one is a university, which one is not
But
a university.
if I do this in the US and I ask, I'll tell you Harvard produced the founder of Microsoft, the founder of Facebook. So automatically Harvard then qualifies as a university.
Yes.
If we go, we'll find those who went to Stanford, those who went to MIT. So why is it that we don't have that? Shouldn't it be instant that if I ask who are the innovators and which university they go to, it should be?
Maybe because of our curriculum. I don't know what to say. Maybe because of our curriculum. Maybe because our universities are not set to promote innovation.
Our institutions of higher learning.
Our institutions of higher learning. Maybe they are not set to seek out to make the process of innovation work. It's not something in the minds of the institutions. It's not part of it as long as you pass through.
So for them, they are no different from a bus stop.
We can say so. I was in a university myself.
So people come with matatus from one side, they offload,
Yes.
they get into other matatus and go, others walk. But whether no one is too interested of what happens to you after you've landed.
We can use that analogy because I was in a university. I still wouldn't specify any of my classmates who innovated something. So maybe then I've passed through an institution of higher learning and not a university. That will put it that way.
Yes. So anything then we discuss from here going forward will be academic.
No, let's get a practical example first before we get to the academic view. A practical example of an innovation you probably know, and it's from a student locally. Globally, we've already mentioned.
Yes.
So locally, do you know one?
Locally, this is a student.
Yeah, a student that has really come up with an innovation and will credit it that this has worked.
That's a difficult question.
That will make us now decide that maybe all institutions of higher learning are not universities then. If you know one locally, okay, we can increase the scope, not only Kenya, East Africa.
East Africa, I could look at Tanzania. There's, I think, but again, this is not, don't even claim to, is it Tanzania? I think it's called the Dar es Salaam Institute of Technology or something. At least I've seen they've come up with things like, somebody came up with a very interesting thrasher for maize, for thrashing maize. Yes. Which sits on top of a tractor.
So that's locally.
And what he was able to do, the innovation was, most of our African farmers are small scale farmers. So they can't afford a thrasher of their own. So what they did is they put a thrasher on a truck.
Then,
And this thrasher goes around farms and collects your maize, thrashes it for you, and gives you now your maize in bags. So the innovation is the fact that he has a thrasher that goes around farms. Instead of everybody trying to sell everyone a thrasher, which you'll only use twice a year if you're lucky.
okay. I keep wondering that maybe from this discussion, what I'm getting is that we're going to dispute that in Kenya, we only have institutions of higher learning. We don't have innovations. So my worry is then what are the limitations we've been undergoing as a country first for us not to be able to make our universities be make our institutions of higher learning be universities. What limitations are we experiencing?
Because we create the entry into those institutions to be the ultimate achievement and not what you're able to do when you leave.
Okay, the way I said, I just went to university.
Yes.
Mine was to,
and yours was to yours was to get to university.
So I worked hard to get to university and pass through without.
Yeah, even passing through was not important because no one asks after that.
Okay.
Apart from when we now need to put statistics for unemployed graduates. That's the next time we discuss you.
Okay.
Yes.
So I haven't gotten really the limitations. I'm thinking there are really a lot of
the limitation is,
make.
let's look at it this
It's
way.
only one.
When footballers walk onto a pitch, what's the objective?
To go and score goals.
Okay.
Or probably
When
play a
people
match.
come into a university, what's the objective?
To school. Okay, let me use personally my own experience. I went to university to become more knowledgeable, learn, and then come out of there a changed person, and maybe get a job. That is one of the things. I wouldn't assume it.
For us, what it is you work hard, you stay late, you stay awake late at night so as to go into a university so that you can get a job.
Yes, that's true.
Okay. So if that's the only journey, then why do we need innovation? And that is what our universities have told us. All that matters is you make it here, then you'll get a good job.
Okay. And what if when you don't get a job? I tend to think I'm not getting the real answer, but I think we'll do this after the break. So see you after the break as we continue on this enriching topic. You and I need to learn a lot. In case you're a university graduate like me, you need to reevaluate why you went to an institution of higher learning.
Are you a lecturer? Are you a tutor? Are you an instructor? Do you wish to make learning efficient and effective? You can now reach out to your learners online using technology. Introducing Bafunde. Bafunde supports trainers and educators in organizations, universities, and colleges to prepare and deliver digital content to boost interactions and learning. Visit our website at bafunde.com and Are you a lecturer? Are you a tutor? Are you an instructor? Do you wish to make learning efficient and effective? You can now reach out to your learners online using technology. Introducing Bafunde. Bafunde supports trainers and educators in organizations, universities, and colleges to prepare and deliver digital content to boost interactions and learning. Visit our website at bafunde.com and Are you a lecturer? Are you a tutor? Are you an instructor? Do you wish to make learning efficient and effective? You can now reach out to your learners online using technology. Introducing Bafunde. Bafunde supports trainers and educators in organizations, universities, and colleges to prepare and deliver digital content to boost interactions and learning. Visit our website at bafunde.com and Are you a lecturer? Are you a tutor? Are you an instructor? Do you wish to make learning efficient and effective? You can now reach out to your learners online using technology. Introducing Bafunde. Bafunde supports trainers and educators in organizations, universities, and colleges to prepare and deliver digital content to boost interactions and learning. Visit our website at bafunde.com and Are you a lecturer? Are you a tutor? Are you an instructor? Do you wish to make learning efficient and effective? You can now reach out to your learners online using technology. Introducing Bafunde. Bafunde supports trainers and educators in organizations, universities and colleges to prepare and deliver digital content to boost interactions and learning. Visit our website at bafunde.com and register now. Bafunde, enhancing learning.
Welcome back, and I hope you've dropped your question or comment so that you're able to learn more on this topic. Know whether you've been through an institution of higher learning or through a university and what you need to make different. Just before the break, we were discussing on the limitations of why we think that the institutions of higher learning in Kenya or locally are not considered as universities as per our definition of what a university is. So do you think that the student has a problem, or exactly it's the institution with a problem?
I don't think the institutions per se have a problem, because, and I think we've seen university students demanding. Years back when I was younger, they would demand for something called a dialogue. And people thought that dialogue was conversation. What dialogue meant was they wanted to eat chapati twice a week. And they got it. So I think it's more about the student understanding why they are going into that institution. And then once they are in there, they should be able to dictate that they get what they came for. Because I believe you're looking at 150,000 university students currently.
More than, maybe in my class we are like 350.
Yeah, and maybe about 5,000 academicians.
That's at least a little number. I think they're more than that.
Okay. So the question becomes is that why are you going into the university? And if you know why you're going, and you're going there because you believe you've identified a problem that needs to be solved, then when you go into the university, you find you use the mechanism within the university to get you to achieve that objective that you have. I'll use something which might be a bit negative because, and this is Gaddafi, former President Gaddafi. President Gaddafi realized that for him to change the country, he would have to overthrow the sitting monarchy. And the best way to do it was to go into the military. And that's what he did. So he went into the military, then when he was in the military, he overthrew the government. So the same thing now applies here. If as students in universities or institutions of higher learning, as we've agreed on, you're clear about what you want out of that institution, then you go and focus on that objective. And if you focus on that objective, I don't want to say that the institution itself has totally failed. I think it has not been challenged anymore.
So who's failed?
It's a student who has failed to challenge academia.
Himself or herself.
Academia has the capacity, and I'll tell you, if you push them, they will do.
So if time was to be reversed, of which it won't be reversed, and I had met you just after Form 4, what different thing would you have advised me? Or what do you think I would have done different now that I probably came through university? Oh, I passed through university. I didn't do any innovation. So if time was to be passed, what would you have advised me? Or what would you advise someone just after COVID planning to join an institute or a university or an institution of higher learning?
Okay. The first thing I would have asked you if I met you before you went in was, what do you really want to achieve in life? Mm-hmm. Yes. If you told me that all you want to achieve in life is a good job, a nice house, a nice car, and a sensible husband, then I'd tell you, don't waste your time for 4 years in the university. There are many other channels you could use.
And what would you tell me to change that mindset, or change the mindset of a particular student right now, having the mindset that I need to go to university, get a job and do this? How can we change that mindset, or what will you advise for them to change a mindset?
It's said that past the age of 7, it's very difficult.
So are we trying to say the problem began?
And that's why I say, and that's why what the Harvards, the Oxfords, and the rest are doing when they have a separate entry exam is what they are looking for is a person who already has the right mindset and the right, what could I say, drive to make change.
So this looks like a problem that began long time ago from primary or from a tender age. Now that it seems you're saying a mindset will only be changed at the age of 7. Yes. I'm already 17 or 18. I'm planning to join the university. I can't change my mindset. It looks like my future is already doomed.
But it's a lot of work. So when I say 7 years, then I now take the problem elsewhere. I take the problem home.
Okay. So if you were given an opportunity to work in the Ministry of Education, what would you have done differently in the whole Ministry of Education such that it would affect from the foundation, in that the long run result at the university would be different?
I would put more effort and more energy into early childhood education. The problem of taking a child to kindergarten and teaching them A, B, C, D, and 1, 2, 3 is where the problem starts. What the child is supposed to be doing at that level is to learn how to be curious, how to explore, and how to get to relate with others. That's what early childhood is about. When we talk about it takes a village to bring up a child, that's what we are saying, is that the village takes care of the child. Note, we do not say that it takes a village to bring up an adult. No, we say it takes a village to bring up a child. So the child must know the norms. The child must know the norms of the society. And based on that, will then allow them to know what they can do and how they can change that community. The same thing has to happen. We made a big mistake many years ago when we abandoned what is called the Montessori system of early childhood education. And we've now turned it into an elitist. Yet the origin of the Montessori system was in the slums of, I think, Milan. So when today I look around and I see schools called Montessori here charge an arm and a leg, yet, shockingly, I went to a city council kindergarten in the early 70s. They use the Montessori system. I think I can say that, to me, the reason why I am able to be multifaceted has nothing to do with what happened to me after 16.
It has something to do with what happened when you were
before I was 7. Before I was 7, I was allowed to understand color, to understand texture, to explore. Now, if you don't have that already, and sadly we beat it out of you every day, your parents want you to sit down and eat at the table. Seriously, children should eat as they want to eat. They can go and sit with a dog and eat. They can. Yes, that is where the problem starts. You deny the child their individualism. And then when they are 21, when they are 24, you're telling them, be innovative. Chief, innovation sio mkate.
Una bahati wewe.
No, you cannot go to the shop and buy innovation, or it's a capsule, you go and buy and give people, and now these are university students, here's innovation. Have a sip, everybody now. No, it's a process.
Okay. Just before we go to the next question, Edna Amara on Twitter says, a great conversation. And then we have Odhiambo Arwa from Facebook. He says, I totally agree. University is a place of generating knowledge, or to the very least, change how existing knowledge is understood. So one thing I would want, we are talking about students or innovations from students or students as innovators. So if you are given an opportunity, we've discussed you being given an opportunity to work in the Ministry of Education, and you've said you'd really change the early childhood system, yes, because that's where the problem begins. So what if you were granted an opportunity to be a VC of, say, the University of Nairobi? What would you have done differently?
So it's good that this is after the new constitution. You know, with the old constitution, if you imagined yourself as president, it was determined treason. So let me imagine myself as a vice chancellor.
Yeah, imagine.
The first thing, if I was to become the vice chancellor, the first thing is to understand that that institution's objective is to change society. That's its main objective. And how do you then change that society? You change that society by sending out your academics to find what problems exist and how those problems can be solved. This needs to be done together with the students, so that during that 4 years when that student is going through the institution, they must be exposed to what are the problems out there, mm-hmm, and working towards solving those problems out there.
How is that? How do you expose them? The lecturers? Or is it part of a unit? I want to know what exactly you're going to do differently as you may attended this class. Is it a class you're adding? Is it a practical lesson? What is getting to be done different? Or is it from the top management that change needs to come at the university? Or where is the change getting effected?
Like I say, it's our lecturers have been trained well.
Okay. Tick for the lecturers.
That, mm-hmm, exists. The average Kenyan youth or Kenyan is fairly dynamic. So even though I talked ill of the education system and the rest, but the Kenyan is known to be more resilient than in most other countries, which is why you'll have a graduate who's a makanga, you'll have a graduate. For me, those are some positives that we might have. But so you're asking is what's the process? Mm. The process is to provide a conducive environment. One, to debate.
Between who and who?
The lecturer and the student. Mm-hmm. Because I think the worst thing that's ever happened to us is where the lecture has become priority. There is every single university in this country, students sign into class.
Yes.
What is signing into class?
To show that you attended class.
Did you attend or you showed up?
Okay, you showed up, so you actually signed so that you're able to do an examination. I tend to think that is the whole.
So what is attendance?
Attendance is you attending the class.
No.
Going to
you
class.
Can't use attendance to define
okay, attendance is you going to class, sitting down, getting what the lecturer said, and getting imparted on knowledge.
So how does signing a piece of paper confirm that all those three happened?
Signing a piece of paper confirms you just showed up and you are going to do an
exam. So people show up for lectures, they don't attend lectures.
There are some who genuinely attend. Let's not negate that. But there are some who really sign that and they attend and they show up. They do both. And then there's a majority, not a majority, or maybe some who only sign to show up.
Okay. So when a lecturer comes in and puts slides on the board, mm-hmm, that he picked from a book, mm-hmm, is that the best use of that lecturer's time?
I believe no.
So what we need to do also is to flip the university. When you walk into a lecture hall, it should be about conversation. The rest you can read. And today it's not the days when there was one textbook. Now everybody can have a textbook. Mm-hmm. So what we're talking about is class should be run as a case study with a clear objective. So really when you start the semester, you should be identifying a problem that needs to be solved.
So by the end of the semester, you solve that problem?
By the end of the semester, yes, you should have a solution to that problem.
Should we say that the term papers or projects people do in campus should now be based on those problems?
Yes, and I think that's where maybe our other issue is those should be based on a real problem, not
an abstract
problem.
Okay. I did a project paper and I'm thinking it was based on a real problem. Yeah, and it was based on unemployment. But I keep wondering, how would you use that, my project paper, as an innovation in the innovation process?
That's good. Now let's use that. So you did a paper on
youth unemployment. Yes.
youth unemployment.
Yes, that was my fourth year paper.
What was the objective?
To understand why the percentage of the unemployed, the youth, are the highest.
Okay. You know, that was very quickly to solve because the youth are already the largest number in the population.
Yeah.
So you definitely expect them to be.
Yeah, that was one.
So what did you come out with from that study?
The youth are the many, and then there's a mismatch of jobs. The other was the fact that people get to university with the aim of getting just employment. So in the long run, most of them, if your degree cannot earn you employment, a good example is, if I decide I'll go to university, do economics to be an economist, and that doesn't earn me a job, I cannot swap back to doing something like maybe become a cook, a sweeper. So that was one of the major reasons why most of them are unemployed, because they are waiting on employment specifically for whatever they pursued. They cannot veer off.
Okay.
So how do you put that in the innovation process?
One of the things you said you found out was there was a job mismatch.
Yes.
So which therefore means that when we take people into the universities, we do not know where they are going when they finish.
Yes.
We are blind towards the market demand.
You normally attend university depending on where job places you most.
Yes, but job places you based on what?
Based on how you performed. You would have wanted maybe to do medicine, and somehow whatever job places you, so you were there because job placed you there. And so you don't have I should say you don't have an option. If you really cannot afford the other system, then you don't have an option.
Here's where, after your study, where the innovation would be.
Yeah.
Could you find a way to find out what jobs are available at the other end? Not tomorrow, but what are the jobs that will be available in 5 years? And then based on that, advise the youth
to take
courses
based on that. And then what happens to the fact that you're only positioned with job? No, you as a VC, what are you changing here?
And that's yes, and that's what we're saying, is that now if you came up with that, now if you came to me as a VC and say, I have gone to the market, and what the market needs, they need so many of this, so many of this, and so many of this, then as a university, I should be able to go to job and tell them, adjust my intake. I'm now willing to only take so many for law. I'm only willing to take so many for engineering, and so many for what?
So this is a research not done by me as a student, but by you as a VC.
Even though you as a student. And note, what was that paper about?
Unemployment, youth unemployment.
No, it was it's a culmination of what you had learned over
time in campus.
So which means by the time you were doing that paper, you are not a student per se. You are a professional who went out to do a research. And that research should have been able to then be what gives you employment, either as a consultant or as an implementer. That is what that project is for. It's not just there to give you a grade. And so if I was the VC, I would make sure that those projects were realistic. So don't give me a project on how Kenya can go to the moon by 2050.
That's unrealistic.
Yes. For me, tell me how you'll find your way to SpaceX to become the first astronaut, Kenyan astronaut in space. Makes sense. Then give me a roadmap, because you acquired skills during the 4 years.
So you as a VC, you're going to ensure classes are interactive, ensure whatever they are learning as projects is something that in the long run will enable them get jobs. What more? What
will help them solve a problem in society.
Help them solve a problem in society, and by that they would have created jobs for themselves. So what more will you do as a VC?
Plus, note, one engineer, how many artisans?
1,000 artisans.
10,000 artisans.
Sorry, 1,000, but well, 10,000.
Yes, that is to 10,000 ordinary diploma holders, 1,000 ordinary diploma holders. So if you look at that, and that's why I say is that the person coming out of that institution is the one who would solve the problem you are studying, which was Youth unemployment.
Youth unemployment.
So who is the best person to solve youth unemployment?
Myself as an unemployed one.
The other youth who are sitting in universities, which is an incubation of ideas.
Of innovation. An incubation of innovation.
Yes. So if it's that, so that as you're coming out, you have done enough papers, you have convinced, and you've started the process of doing. Note, as we said, it's about doing.
Now, I want to get more practical. We've spoken so much about this subject of innovation, and I don't know you practically, what have you done that will be accounted that surely, Mr. Robert Yawe, you did this in the line of innovation. You cannot talk about a subject and maybe you are an amateur in it. So practically, what have I done in the innovation space? Okay, I've run business for a long time. I was an entrepreneur. I was a typical Kenyan. I was an entrepreneur. Okay, so what did I do? In high school, I used to sell sports equipment to teams in Jericho and other areas. I also used to I learned about things called thyristors and the rest, so I used to make disco lights. So for me, all through what it meant was you build something to sell. And that's what most of us have become. What we call entrepreneurship here is trading. Okay? And I did this for many years. I've run 3-4 businesses, all with that. So then come now, you're asking me about what I've done, which I could call innovative. yes, practically.
Okay? I'm in the technology space. I have been able to convert data centers which were not smart by implementing IoT into those data centers to make them smart. In exchange, what does that do? That makes sure that people in the IT department spend less time worrying about the physical infrastructure and concentrating on delivering services to their internal customers. Okay. What else did I then do? About 7-8 years ago, I got invited to Strathmore's incubator, IBIS Africa. And initially it was because of my IT skills. But when I got there, I listened to a few cases about the whole startup space and what it's about. And so I went out and I studied about innovation. What's innovation about? Innovation is about commercializing inventions or coming up with new processes. Yes. So I come up with new processes for my customers. That's how I become innovative. But in addition, I realized I'm also past the 7 years and very far past the 7 years. I'm past the 50 mark.
Okay.
So on the other end. So what did we do at Strathmore to try and build what I said I would do if I was the Vice Chancellor? Okay. Part of this thing that the students at Strathmore would be required to do is go for internship. Okay.
Yes.
So we were incubating a company and they asked whether they could do their internship in their own business. And we walked to the faculty, to the administration, and they actually agreed.
So they will do internship in their own businesses.
So now the internship doesn't have to do with you going to another organization. You can now intern
Within.
And that became something that Strathmore pushes a lot of. So in a way, that is what I have done.
In the practical world.
Yes. Secondly, I also stand in class once in a while and teach. Strathmore Institute. The Strathmore Institute runs a course called Entrepreneurship. Okay? And we looked at the course and we realized that entrepreneurship, if left as it is, was more of an academic unit.
Something.
And I believe every university in the country nowadays offers entrepreneurship as a mandatory, as a common unit.
Common unit.
Yes. So asked ourselves, what is it we can do differently with that unit?
Make it practical.
And so I teach a unit called Technology and Innovation in Entrepreneurship.
Technology and innovation in entrepreneurship.
Yes. So when you look at entrepreneurship, you don't look at it just as buying and selling. You now come to understand how to apply technology. And technology here is from a machine for peeling potatoes. That is technology. To connecting to M-Pesa API. The innovation part is making sure that whatever business you want to go into is solving a new problem, or is solving an existing problem in a different way. So what that now does is we now are becoming innovative in how we deliver the course. So it's not accepting that just teaching people to sit in class and write a business plan qualifies as
innovation or
as all that is required for entrepreneurship. You need to give them other skills. And one of those is what technology is out there, so that when you walk out and you walk over and you look at, I'll give you a simple example. It's one of the classes, the question was public toilets. Okay. So the students went out and walked through the city of Nairobi to understand what were the issues in public toilets. And they noted that public toilets were not very well maintained, they weren't that clean, and they weren't set up ideally for a certain class of person. So what would be the solution to that?
Make them clean. That's one. They would work. The solutions would arise from the problems.
Yes.
They will try to solve the problems.
So what they did was, so one person looked at it and realized that actually you can go out and put up a toilet, public toilet, and make it available to the public. Do you know how profitable it is?
Very profitable.
So all along, we've always been complaining about the county-run public toilets. What is innovative?
Creating a new, just changing from the county to this new toilet that has a better deal. It's cleaner. It can be used for people of different social classes.
Yes. So that came out of the fact that the student has to find a practical problem that needs to be solved.
Okay.
Yes.
Just before we go on, but evidently, you've been in the practical sector of innovation, in the innovation space. You've done a lot. So you're really suited to handle this. So you have a question from Edna, and it says, how can you create innovators out of non-ICT and technical courses?
Thank you. That's a very good question. And that's the misconception we have. We've kept assuming that innovation
is for ICT.
No. Innovation cuts across all sectors of life.
From anthropology?
Even the anthropologists can be innovative. Yes. The problem was they can't do innovation, too much innovation. So when she asks, and that's when she says that problems are different. Like, for example, I'll go back to what we do with startups at the various incubators, either at C4D or at IBIS Africa or elsewhere. Both of them are fairly agnostic. So it is not an incubator just for people in technology. And that was the madness that has gone on for the last 10 years. Anytime you hear an incubator, it's trying to do IT. Not technology in general, but specifically IT. We've incubated people who are doing clothing. Tailors who do designers. And there's one actually I spoke to who I mentor. And she keeps reminding me that the thing she remembers was me asking her, why is it that Kenyan clothes designers are always poor? And that's because they don't understand that there's more to it than just designing a clothing. You need to be able to understand how to get that item into the hands of somebody. So if you're either in the clothing space, there's a company called Supreme in the US. Supreme sell t-shirts for 5 times the going price of a t-shirt. But you know why they're able to do that?
No.
Because they do not sell like other people. They don't have a shop where you can walk into and buy. They have what you call drops. So rumors go around that there'll be a drop somewhere at Uhuru Park today. The time is unknown. Where exactly at Uhuru Park is unknown. And then suddenly a truck shows up.
And they just begin selling.
And they begin selling. And they'll sell off within an hour. That is an innovative way of selling clothing. There's no technology involved in it.
So innovation necessarily doesn't need IT graduates or people with ICT brains, sort of.
Yeah.
Anyone.
I'll give you one other. Another startup which we've been working with for the last couple of months. And they've introduced here what we call virtual kitchens. If you go into what the food Uber Eats, you'll find them at 7 different restaurants. But they're actually one. So they're what you call cloud kitchens. You have a virtual restaurant. That is what technology has allowed you to do. So if somebody is a chef, and then he's busy telling me how I don't have enough money to open a restaurant, he's refusing to be innovative.
Do it from your house.
Do it from your house. Your house is a kitchen. You have a kitchen. You have a cooker. Then who's your front? Uber Eats. When you find an item on Uber Eats, do you really know where the restaurant is? You look at the pictures of the item, you say, "Ooh, lovely food." You order. Where does it come from?
No one knows.
Somebody's house. It's cooked, and that's innovation.
Okay.
So IT is not the only place where innovation can be applied. Innovation is applicable everywhere and anywhere. It's about solving an existing problem and making money in the process. Let's get that one clear first. Let me get that one very clear. If you're not making money, there's no innovation. It's a hobby. It's a social impact activity. If there's no money,
you're going to confuse people. What is innovation and entrepreneurship?
Entrepreneurship is opening a kiosk.
Innovation
is running that kiosk differently.
So those two are intertwined.
They're intertwined, yes. Okay. Innovation will always end up in
money.
In entrepreneurship. And that's why the innovator must also become an entrepreneur.
Okay.
And that is why the unit I told you I teach is
technology and innovation
in
entrepreneurship.
Yes. It's not separate, it is. So entrepreneurship becomes the end game. For many of us, entrepreneurship is a start-off point.
That should be echoed loud so that everyone understands the end result for innovation.
Yes.
Is entrepreneurship.
And for me, all of those of you who've done, if we're saying all university students in this country did a unit on entrepreneurship, I should not see a university student selling clothes on the street. Yet, while they are selling clothes on the street, they are busy swiping on Instagram.
They can sell those clothes on
Instagram. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we are almost finishing. But what would be your advice to ongoing students on what they can do more in the innovation space? Besides your advice on, we're talking about students as innovation. So your advice on lecturers and on anyone who would really want to get into the innovation space. What will be your parting shot, and what will you leave out there for today?
You know, you can't go into the innovation space. It's not a restaurant.
Okay.
So yes. Kama Java. It's a mindset. It's a mindset whereby you're open-minded to look at what is going on around you, and then looking for opportunities that exist, and then finding a solution to those problems in a way that you will make money. That's very critical. For those of you sitting in universities, Okay, I know you're not inside right now, you're most likely at home. But your students, when you joined the university, you received what we call seed capital. You were given a 4-year runway to identify a problem, identify a solution, test it, and when you leave after 4 years, you go out to implement it. And you'll ask me, what do you mean? One, once you join the university, chances are either you'll get a help loan, or your parents will make sure you have somewhere to stay.
Yes.
You have food.
True.
You have transport. You have clothing. And you have books and money for
upkeep.
Yes. Isn't that what's the salary for?
Salary for your day-to-day survival.
So is that the same as what your parents give you when you're in university?
Upkeep money. You don't work for it. Salary.
No, you work. You've been sent to go and you're a professional student.
You have a right to that.
You're actually running a startup.
Okay.
And you started a startup and you have been given funding now by your parents or the government. They have now given you funding. And they've said, here is money and we've given you 4 years. Go out. Find a problem. Find a solution. Test the solution. And then make it scale. The day you graduate, you will walk to your parents for bus fare. And it will be the most difficult conversation you will ever have had with your parents. Because to them, you have just wasted 4 years of funding. Unatoka hapa kuniambia hakuna kazi. So what were you doing for 4 years? By that time, you should even have walked out. And I tell people, even as when going to look for work, you're an entrepreneur. You have a skill you're selling. True or false?
True.
If no one wants to buy your skill, what does that tell you?
Employ your skill, or maybe your skill is obsolete.
Thank you. So we need to start classifying whether we have unemployed youth or we have unemployable youth.
Okay.
And once we remove the unemployable youth, I can assure you the number of unemployed youth are very few.
Okay. That was a strong parting shot, whether we have unemployable youth or unemployed youth.
Yes.
Just as we finish up, categorize yourself. Are you an unemployable youth or you are a youth
or unemployed?
who is unemployed? Get to know whether you are where you are, because once we remove the unemployable youth, the numbers are really small. And if you're a student, now is the time. Make a difference. Realize the different problems. Try get the solutions. Test if the solutions work. And in the long run, you'll just come out an entrepreneur. And you'll make money, so you'll not be an unemployed person. So thank you and see you on our next show.